Fire in blanks. Can you say hard hats, folks? Hard hats, lunch pail, steel toe boots.
Anything short of a championship this year is a failure. Look at this boomer right here.
You've just got so much talent here.
Somebody said we need to apologize for Jaylen.
Can I close it, John? What are we apologizing for? What did we say? What did we do?
Oh, wow. And
Whoops.
it fails, and it does things. What's going on, guys?
Yeah.
As close to a full crew as we'll have. Professor Blakely cannot join us, but we do have Noa Dalzell, real Bob Manning, down below, Jimmy Toscano, and the preseason is over.
And you,
honestly,
John.
yeah, and me.
Don't forget yourself.
I wish it would never end. This was a ton of fun, super fun basketball game. Joe Mazzulla did not want to let it go. He did not want to lose this game. Bringing back the starters in the fourth quarter, he went for it. Exciting, it was fun. But I think we've learned some things about the team and the direction they're going. And I still a couple of question marks to kind of before the season starts. I guess that final roster spot, it's hotly debated. We're gonna have Noah and Bobby go at it. Over what's supposed to happen there. Bobby's as riled up as he gets over this. Don't say.
I don't even know what Bobby's stance is.
Don't say Lonnie Walker around
Neither does
Bobby
he.
Manning if you don't want to get your head chewed off. I'm just telling you right now.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I hate
Lonnie
to
Walker
be in that
did
position.
something to Bobby. I just don't know what. We're gonna find
Well,
out.
no, I hate to be in that position because I like him. I think he's done well. I think he's probably put on about as strong of a performance to make that spot as you can, and it's just such a high hurdle. We've talked about the money. We've talked about how they can probably get away with putting him in Maine for some part of the year. And it feels like that's the way they're going to go after DNP tonight. So we'll see. So they have until Saturday to make that call. But, yeah, no minutes for Walker tonight after a pretty strong weekend.
Or do they already know he's made the team and he doesn't need to do anything else?
I think, first of all, I think the substitution patterns today they were trying to balance out guys from who was playing a lot on Sunday. Like Drew Peterson didn't play today in favor of Ron Harper Jr. I think they were just making sure that everybody had a big enough sample that they weren't just playing for like 3 minutes. So I wouldn't read into that, but I think you're right, Bobby, that the same considerations that have been true from the start remain true. And the money thing was always a reality, and the flexibility of having that 15 spot open. But I like that you tweeted out like the $10 million thing, which has always been a fact. And then everybody was aggregating it. Like you had just broken some new like thing that was controversial where it was like, that was just the correct information from the beginning.
What the tax hit is?
Yeah.
I thought
Bobby
it was
just
8.8
explained.
million. Yeah.
Well, that's how I felt from the moment they signed him, is that it's very expensive to have a 15th guy on this team. Now, the debate we're going to have is
whose money is it?
Whether there's anyone better. There's probably no one better you can find for 15.
The debate we're going to have is whether or not Noah's boy, Jaden Springer, gets dealt in his guaranteed money, and that's how you make the room. But we're going to get into that later in the show, where this isn't the Lonnie Walker hour. I guarantee that we'll talk about it. I know Noah.
That's what the people are most interested in, for sure.
Bobby, I don't know what weird bubble you live in where people only talk about Lonnie Walker.
Ask the chat.
I do not have there's not a single friend of mine that's uttered the words Lonnie and or Walker in any text thread or any.
Well, they don't even know that season started yet.
You have entered like the QAnon for like 15th men right now, and you are deep into some conspiracy shit with Lonnie Walker. You gotta pull yourself out, go touch some grass, like just take a walk. It's gonna be all right, trust me. But we'll get to it. What Noah had mentioned, there's some substitution patterns tonight a little bit, with some guys in, some guys out. I actually tend to think outside of the obvious Holiday and Hauser getting the night off as a rest, this was close to what you're going to get for who's going to play this season. Like, this is kind of it, right? If Hauser and Holiday are both healthy, that's going to mean Pritchard's minutes are reduced. He's not going to get as many as he got tonight, and Walsh probably doesn't see the court or maybe he does, but like we're literally talking about who's vying for the O'Shea Brissett minutes, and this is what's got Bobby in a lather. And it appears that Jordan Walsh is the runaway winner right now of the O'Shea Brissett Memorial play you once every 5 games award. Yeah. And that's about it, right? Is that kind of what we've learned through the preseason? Would you all say?
Yeah, I think his preseason was a pleasant surprise for sure. Yeah, and
I'm scared to wait.
I don't know if it broke the threshold of reaching O'Shea Brissett status. I think that's going to be interesting to watch, but he does have a couple of weeks early on where he will be in Boston. Maine doesn't start until November 8th, so I'd love to see him run away with that spot. And like I've said in a couple hits Noah and I did, I don't want to see the shooting be the reason he doesn't get a chance here, because I thought he brought so much other stuff to the table. You see the finish around the basket late. I think it tied the game, right? You see the reads he's able to make, screens, 10 rebounds again here in this one. So he's been all over the boards. Defensively, he had that great play at the end that he blew up. We've had this debate a million times, John. Either you shoot on this team, or you're a center, or you're not playing. And unfortunately, I have a feeling that the shooting is going to keep him from playing right now. And there's obviously other things he needs to work on at his early age and early stage in his development. But it just feels like, at least from what you've watched early on, John, doesn't it seem like he can bring a little something? I didn't feel this way a year ago, and I certainly didn't expect to feel this way coming off his horrendous summer league. But man, did he turn it around this preseason. I thought he was awesome. He didn't shoot great. He had a few spurts where his shot looked better, but I felt like everything else came a long way since that summer league.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's stamped his ticket to anything so far, but he's the clubhouse leader. I think it's very similar to how last year Delano Banton started the year as kind of the, hey, let's see how this guy rotates in for a few bench minutes, and it wasn't quite working. And then you tried Brissett, you tried Stevens, you went back to Brissett. I think that's what you're going to get this year. It's certainly Walsh's opportunity right now to lock it down. And if he keeps playing like this, it's for him, it's as easy as if the shot falls, I hate to reduce it to that, Bobby, but I mean, that's what it is. If the shot falls consistently and he can take it,
which was pretty much what he was in Maine last year.
If he can take it and make it with some level of confidence, he can find his way onto the floor. I think what kept all of those guys off the floor last year is how brutally they all were shooting in the early going. I mean, really bad. Even guys who had decent career numbers couldn't hit anything, kind of rotating into that 10th man spot. And that's the problem. Is Walsh right now has the benefit of minutes that he's not going to see in the regular season. And when his number is called, he'll have sat for 3 games and he comes in for a 4-minute stretch and he's got a show. And if he doesn't, he might get the Neesmith treatment and just get banished to the bench for another 7 games. So
or to Maine.
So like, I don't know that he's locked it down, but he's definitely like, and I know Noah, gave a very thoughtful tweet earlier about be nice to your friends here. Jordan Walsh, everyone remember what they were saying about him a couple of months ago.
They were calling him a basketball terrorist repeatedly all summer league.
So
he was.
You were in those same.
He was really bad.
Goes.
Small sample, but he was.
But I know. But my point is that we get so hot and cold about these players with such a small sample size. Like, how many minutes did Baylor Shireman play this preseason? Like, not a whole lot, right? And it was enough to have people really like jumping off a cliff talking about him. So my point was just Jordan Walsh, things were looking really rough in July. I was there in person. It was rough to have to talk to him after the games because it was kind of like everything went awry and he had all these hopes for himself. And watching him a few months later, like, it legitimately looks like a different basketball player. And not the shot, but just the processing, the decision-making. Like, it looks like he was rewired, and it's remarkable. I haven't seen anybody like, just change their approach so quickly in such a short span. Like, the last time we saw him on the floor, it was a completely different situation. So I just think in general, like, it's easy to jump to conclusions because we're waiting so much to see these guys play. We talk about Jordan Walsh for a year, and then finally we hear him, we see him in person, and Baylor Shireman since the draft, all this hype, now he's available. So there's a lot of differences. People were quick to point out they're 4 years apart, and I totally get that. But I think it's just important to acknowledge, like, we're seeing like little snippets here, and they're very much dependent on, if you're in a good shooting stretch right now. Drew Peterson has looked good in preseason. He's had some rough stretches in Maine that I've watched. So everybody has their highs and lows, and we're just trying to, put the pieces together to make, understandings of what's possible here. But I loved what I saw out of Jordan Walsh. I still think the expectation is for him to spend a lot of the year in Maine. But I think that the door is open, and it's really less about the O'Shea Brissett minutes and the Svi Mihajlovic minutes, because those were so limited last year. It's more those guys were insurance players, and they never really needed to bank on them. But it's possible that this year they're going to need guys to actually come in and play a real rotation role if Tatum sprains his ankle, knock on wood, for 2 months or whatever it is. It's like you never know. Now all of a sudden you really need Jordan Walsh or whoever takes that position more so than just like 3 minutes here and there that O'Shea and Svi did.
We used to call Bobby sample size because he would like extrapolate 48, like what Luke's like 6 minutes, and he would extrapolate it over.
I
like
still do sometimes.
For 48 minutes.
We are the opposites on this.
Yeah, Bobby's like he's like 3 for 5 this preseason. He's shooting 60%, John.
Yeah.
I'm like,
look at his per 48.
I knocked on wood. I see someone here says I wished injuries. I knocked on wood, so there's no.
No, but
injuries
I mean,
here.
look,
Who's
no, they've
wishing
never
injuries.
They've never had.
No,
that.
I brought up Tatum's ankle. I'm sorry.
I lobbied.
I'm just saying, like,
I lobbied for a
there's
torn
an
ACL. The bar is pretty high.
That is true.
So
Famously,
don't worry.
by the way.
Famously lobbied for a torn ACL.
Listen, I'll co-sign what you guys are saying about Walsh. I think the difference is in summer league, he was like the guy, right? So now he's back into a role where he doesn't need to be that. He just needs to be a deep role player, and he probably feels less pressure or like less of a situation where he's expected to be the guy. He just needs to be the 10th guy. So probably a little bit of a mindset change, from preseason to when he was in the summer league, and probably felt like he needed to shine and needed to prove that he was the best player out in the court, even though, there was going to be some really talented, one and first and second year players out there. But he's a guy that can obviously do multiple things out there. You want him to be a good two-way player. Like John said, it's going to come down to the shot. But with a healthy roster, we're talking about guys that, when they are in the game, the Celtics are more than likely either up by a lot or down by a lot. You want to see them grow into that role. And that's what I love about the preseason is finding which fringe guys, which deep role rotation players are going to make some sort of a leap this year, whether it's still majority in the G League or whether they do crack that, 10th player rotation or whatever it is. And there's been a handful of guys who are in that argument. Obviously, Walsh is one. I still have high hopes for Tillman to have a bigger role at some point this year or to start the year. I mean, I just think, with injuries, and he obviously has, experience in the league. He had a good role in Memphis. I don't know. It would be nice to see him settle in a little bit in this Boston team. It does look like Cornette's going to have a pretty significant role with this team.
We'll get to that.
Bobby, I know. He's got to perk up. And then Shearman's going to do the G League stuff. Yeah, no, I'm sure you do.
But I think it's a matter of perspective, how you assess and know why you might have some people who are quick to give up. It's on this team, like, okay, fine. He's fine for a 10th man, sure, whatever, I'll take it. Yeah. But I think what people are looking for is they're trying to determine, like, did you find, is he real? Is it, did we hit one? Like a really hit one? Not, did we hit it on a guy who can come in and play 8 minutes a night and not embarrass himself? Did we find our Chris Middleton, second round gem? Did you find that guy who can really be something that's steel? And once you realize he's not that, or once you've determined, I don't think he's going to be that, maybe he'll be fine, you kind of lose interest and you move on to the next thing, which is why I think people get excited about, Baylor Sharman. It's like, well, it's a first-round pick. We haven't had one of those in a while. And then he comes out and it's like, oh, this guy stinks. And then you move on to the next thing. So your patience is...
Well, there's also a difference between a 20-year-old and a 24-year-old in that spot, too, or whatever Walsh is now, 21.
Yeah.
There's a difference, but I also want to say, like, you could be 28 for all I care. You've never been in the NBA before. He just gained 15 pounds in summer league. He's adjusting to the pace. He's adjusting to the physicality and everything. So there's going to be like, regardless of your age, you're new to the league. It's still preseason. He's barely been on the floor. Like, I'm not impressed by what I've seen of Baylor Shireman, for the record. It's not like I'm saying, I'm just, I think with the same, and thinking of John, of what you're saying, of like people want to get excited or not excited, like the same guys that we're now excited about, I could pick a sample from in July where things look really dire. And even Jordan Walsh, the first summer league, everybody got so high, next summer league, disaster, right? So I think it's just, we're only seeing limited things. I know that's no fun to say that, but I feel like I have to include that. And again, we can get to some of the guys that, like, once you've been in the league for 4 years, like, you have to show out in those moments more so. Like, we can talk about Jaden Springer. I'll admit maybe I was a little overzealous there, but
we gave up on JD Davison pretty quick, and he just keeps looking better and better. And it's just like, wait a second, is he something? So like, yeah, it is. It's early. Walsh, as Bobby said, Walsh, the benefit you have is youth here. Is he could be a totally different player in 2 years just because he's so young right now. And so you really don't know what you have. So seeing him make any sort of leap, even from where he was last year, or I know you saw a player in Maine that you thought more closely resembled this one, but he was doing it against that competition, not this competition. And if he can do what he's doing now, or what you've seen in the preseason, in a semi-expanded role, then you did get something. And that is a real thing. And I think it is worth getting excited about. I do think that, again, not to move off Walsh completely, but if you're going to flip it to the Shireman conversation, I think it's a bummer for fans seeing what he looks like now, because you realize he's not.
I thought he was going to hit fast.
I thought he was going to hit faster because of his age and because of his style of play. I thought he'd be able to handle it. And right now the game is really sped up for him. And
you think it's because he changed his hair and everything, and he just,
I don't know. But you don't have the benefit of time with him to figure it out. So I think this is a redshirt year for Baylor right now, pretty much, because I don't know where you're going to stick him in there and figure out whether or not he can play or not play at this point. Once the season gets rolling, unless the thing that Noah hopes happens, everybody gets hurt, and in which case, yeah,
yeah, it's on video.
That's what they're there for. Peyton Pritchard brought it up the other day. He said, like, there's a possibility that someone gets hurt. I don't want that, but I have to be ready for it. So blame Pritchard.
Speaking of Pritchard too, think of his development curve. I mean, we liked him early on. I like the pick. Now he's the best player in the preseason and looks like he's a real breakout candidate for this team 5 years in. So even as a guy who came out older, even as a guy who looked like a pretty finished product out of Oregon, he added layers. And, you had the possibility they could have got traded there at one point. And it's these guys go through such swings in their arcs here. You never truly know how or where it's going to end up. So there are a number of different interesting guys on this team. And the Pritchard example is a good one of might get lost in the shuffle at a certain point, whether it's early or in between, as it was in Pritchard's case, but you could come out the other side looking amazing. And man, I know it's preseason and I know we've watched him in different spots look good, but he looks like world beat. I don't want to throw out 6-man. I see a lot of people doing that. I think that's a high bar.
Yeah, you do.
But wow. I mean, he's playing out of this world.
I smell a bold prediction, John. I smell a bold prediction.
I mean, I could see him finishing in like the top 3 to 5 maybe, but wow, he's just looks incredible. He said he worked on the pull-up shooting. That's evident. He looks stronger, leaner. I know you mentioned that, John. Looks a little bit leaner.
I don't think you can win 6th man as an 8th man, though. Like, that's kind of the thing. It's like, I just, a 6th man is a de facto, is a starter, essentially. They're playing starters minutes for the most part, coming off the bench. But and they're closing some games, but they're getting typically, in the 30-minute per game range. I just don't think Pritchard's ever going to get there. So I think that's wishful thinking. But that being said, he's not a break glass in case of emergency player anymore. He's a guy, when he comes in the game, you're like, we could use what Pritchard's doing, what Pritchard brings to the game. And that's what makes it better and different, is you're not surviving bench minutes. You're actually like, oh, maybe they could get a little spark from Pritchard here. The offense is stagnated and they could use that, and that's what's great, is that's what he's bringing now. And especially like playing, against those second units. So, yeah, I mean, I mean, he played 22 minutes a game last year. I don't know how much higher that gets this year. What do you guys think? I mean,
No, I'm with you. I don't think he's going to have a big enough. Again, he's going to have a big role, but he's not going to have 6 man of the year role. I mean, don't forget, like John said. I mean, who was the Knicks player who won it?
Quickly.
McBride?
Quickly.
He didn't win it.
Was,
he lost to Brogdon.
He lost it, but the argument was that the only reason he lost is because he ended up starting for the second half of the year.
That was one of the pro Brogdon arguments that was being made on the Boston side of things. Is he's a true sixth man, and somehow that entered the equation. Yeah. Where quickly started more games, and also his starting numbers were high and kind of skewed his overall numbers because as a starter he was scoring 20 something a game or whatever it was.
But he was awesome. Anyways, I don't see Pritchard with that type of when he is in the court. I mean, minutes aside, there's just too many other guys who are going to command the ball and be more of a focal point. Pritchard's going to come in and play his role awesome. I have a lot more confidence in him, just like you guys do, now than I ever have.
Remember what Jaylen said when they played Detroit? They're just going to let him score 30 and they'll still win.
Yeah, that was actually an awesome quote. But Pritchard's one of the guys that you have to feel great about going into the year. I think he's one of the guys who has, if you're talking about preseason takes, he's up there at the top. I think for most people, just somebody that's making some sort of a leap here, and whether that's just the confidence that he's had, I know, but he's one of those guys that seems to put in a ton of work. So you're talking about Sherman and some of these other guys, and you want to make comparisons to Pritchard. I hope that they're in the gym and they're working on their game as much as Pritchard does, because he is definitely a guy that has had to work for everything to be where he is today. I mean, just because, a bit of an undersized and everything like that. But when it comes to confidence and those deep threes, man, I mean, how many times in the playoffs did we see one of those go down? So I think he is going to have a good role for them for sure.
Yeah. So we're going to definitely go over a few more things. We didn't talk about it at all tonight, but I think Jason Tatum and the game that he had tonight, I think definitely deserves a little bit of attention. We'll continue kind of going through some of the, fine tuning of the final roster positions here. We talk about Al, first chance we got to see him, obviously a little bit rusty here, but we are officially now we are a week away from this game. And again, I got to tell you, if you guys want to get in on the action here.
Oh boy.
You can do it.
Were you there 2009, John, opening night?
Yes, I was. When Paul Pierce gave a speech about how he saved America, and single-handedly won the title, it was.
Oh, here comes John's Pierce bashing, Bobby.
It was pretty.
Every few weeks,
I don't remember that.
It was bad. Anyway, yes, it was. Anyway,
and by the way, I can't see my face right now. I hate how this looks.
What? Just because we can't see your face?
Yes.
Hi, Jimmy.
There we are.
Okay. Bye, Jimmy.
All right, bye.
But if you want to get in to check out this game, if you can see it here, you can get in.
Wow,
the 300 level
for $1,021.
No, those are the good seats. You want to get up in the 300s, you can sneak your way in with Game Time. And I've used it before, and I think it's great. Used it for a concert very recently. Got myself in, super easy, all-in pricing. It's all you have to do. You download the app, create an account, use the code CLNS, $20 off your first purchase. But again, I don't know if this is going to be one of those things. You might not be able to.
Game. Celtics next is going to be fun.
It's going to be fun. You might not be able to do the Toscano and wait it out here because you want to get in the building early, because you want to get in there for that banner going up, and that should be a ton of fun. So definitely want to check it out and get in for Game Time here, and get your tickets while you can if you want to get an open night. But it's not just that; it's all basketball season starting up. You want to get into your favorite concerts, whatever have you. Check it out. Great panoramic views of your seat when you check it out, all in pricing, so you know exactly what you play. Lowest price guarantee. You've got Game Time ticket coverage. So all you have to do, again, download that app, create an account, use the code CLNS, $20 off your first purchase. Once again, terms apply. $20 off your first purchase when you download the Game Time app. Other thing we want to tell you about.
Use code CLNS, but real quick on Game Time. I just used Game Time for Coldplay tickets. That Coldplay is doing their world tour here coming up next year. Tried to get them when they went on sale. Couldn't do it. Jumped over to Game Time as they were still on sale and bought them on Game Time. And by the time other people realized that they weren't going to be able to get them like the regular way, I had already got my tickets on Game Time, and the prices shot up like after the fact. So I kind of did the opposite of what I usually do. I bought them immediately.
Bought them early.
Yeah.
You never know, but like I said, download the app, check in and out if you want to check out the Celtics game. See what that get-in fee is, and you definitely want to get in there if you can and check it out. We also want to tell you about Prize Picks, and I'll tell you, basketball season, my favorite time.
Who's this guy next to Hurts on the right?
This guy?
Who's the guy next to Hurts on the right? Who is that guy with the glasses?
I don't know. Is it that important?
Yeah, because I want to know who he is. Well, who is he?
I don't know.
What it says, Faker, right?
Is that what it says?
All I know is basketball is my favorite time to get in on Prize Picks. You should check it out too. Number one fantasy sports app. You can win up to 100 times your money. Uses with as few as 4 correct picks. Join over 10 million users and sign up today. It's great. It's fun. It's easy. Super intuitive. Download the app. Check it out. Easy pictures there. You tick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot up to win 100 times your cash. Run your games all season long on Prize Picks. Again, all you have to do here is download that app. Boom. Use the code CLNS. Bet 5, get 50. That's it. You don't even have to win. You just do it. It's easy enough.
I'm going more on Shohei. Everything. Yeah. More. More on
Shohei. But yeah, it's a ton of fun, and it's super fun with basketball because there's so many stats to pick from and so many players and so much stuff. And I always feel like it's
they got Anthony Edwards free square right now too.
And the Anthony Edwards free square. That's a gimme. You can stack it, put Anthony Edwards in. He's just has to score more than 1 point. That's a freebie on Game Time. You use that for opening night when those games play. Use Anthony Edwards, and that's a free square right there for you scoring more than 1. I don't know, but I think he'll get the 1.
Yeah.
I think he'll get it.
Is he definitely playing?
Yeah.
They're playing the Lakers.
So let's go over Tatum a little bit because preseason storylines, there was some Tatum concern after his shot, some not so great, moments in the Olympics, some off-season sulking and pouting, and then, what's he going to be like and how's he going to handle the pressure, and everyone thinks he's overrated and he won a title and nobody's giving him respect. He looked pretty awesome to me tonight. And it was not just the shot falling, which I was curious to see whether or not he'd still have some yips left over from, his little spell, from the summer. But it looked like everything was just moving in slow motion for him tonight. He's still getting doubled, as you mentioned, Bobby, when we were texting, but he's able to just kind of see his way through everything. And he got the ball out of his hands super quick tonight. I felt like every time the pressure was coming, he was feeling it. He was sensing it. He was kind of waiting. And a second somebody came over, he'd kick it. He moved it fast. He made great passes. His length, being disruptive in passing lanes and the defense that he was playing, especially in that second quarter, they went on the 19-0 run, was just beautiful. And I hate to say it, Bobby, but I'm going to do it. Maybe the most fun 2-man game that we have on this team right now is Tatum and Luke.
Oh, wow.
I love these guys. I love them.
I'll punt on that one because I don't want to veer that in the Cornet direction.
But I love
you.
Yeah.
I'll just say on the Tatum piece. Yeah, I think what was he, 5 of 13 from 3? So it's not, it's not like he was, lights out, but you could just tell that whatever it is that we saw during the Olympics and even later in the postseason. Yeah, it was just, he started 3 of 6 and he took some tough ones down the stretch there. I feel like he always takes 1 or 2 ones that are have a very low chance of going in that skew his numbers a bit. But yeah, I thought he just looked very solid. He looked very solid across the board through his, somewhat limited preseason showings. And I think it just goes to show you, he was just in an uncomfortable situation in the Olympics. Like, you could just see it all over his face. He didn't know who to be, what to do. Like, we talk so much about situations and guys struggling when they come in, like the Shaper Sets of the world and have limited shots. Like, I think it was just something that he had never experienced before. And it probably wasn't so much that he had like a mechanical overhaul, and more so just like being back in the environment that he's used to. Though I see that light differences, though, we've noticed. But I thought he looked just really solid across the board. And Jaylen's looked really good through preseason. I thought he had a pretty tough third quarter there that kind of derailed them. But generally speaking, they've both been like, they've seemed like they've both taken positive steps.
Barnes took it to him there. Barnes looked great tonight.
Jaylen looked like he was all set with the preseason tonight, like, because he had been playing well and he'd been passing the ball really well and doing a lot of different things. But he looked like he wasn't interested in playing defense tonight, or really, part of this. That whole starting unit was rough with Horford was rusty, Jaylen was checked out, and White couldn't shoot at all. And those guys were like a combined minus 70 between the three of them. They didn't fare well. It was Tatum and the bench that kept these guys alive.
Tatum just
and those are the only two guys in late, White and Tatum.
He's just got to get back to basics, get back to what he knows. He's, the guy or player one on this team, and he doesn't have to think about the Olympics. The whole like national spotlight of the playoffs and the NBA finals are behind. They're going to raise the banner on Tuesday, and then hopefully they realize and find out that none of that matters anymore. It's what have you done? It's always going to be what have you done for me lately, especially in Boston. So they'll find that out quickly if things start off slow and if they struggle. But if they just play the game, if he just plays his game, and again, that outside shot ticks up a little bit, and it doesn't look like he's forcing it or overthinking it, and he's not obsessed or paying too much attention to what people like us or the media or the national media, Stephen A. Smith and all those guys are saying. If he can just focus on the game, he'll be fine. I mean, that's not a hot take. I mean, he's one of the best players in the league. He just has to remind himself about that.
And he enters this year, John, 8th, 9th, depending on what list you're looking at here in terms of MVP odds. So, like the low perception of him from the summer, it's so crazy. Coming off what he did, and
John thinks that's accurate.
The strides he made. I mean, it could be.
That's true.
You think he should be behind Wembanyama?
Yes.
I think by the end of this year, Wemby's going to be a top 3 player, probably.
I actually thought about betting Wemby as.
Oh, you're even higher than me. I had him at 7, but I don't think he's.
I think Wemby's a top 5 MVP finisher this year. I really do. I think he's going to.
Let's see how the Spurs do.
I think this is the last year where like not talking about him as maybe the best player in the NBA. Like I think by next year, the conversation is completely different, and we're like, what rules do we have to change now? Yeah. Exactly. Like, how do we have to change all of the basketball rules because of Wemby now?
Like, you don't think Chris Paul's going to get?
We're not far away from that. Yeah,
80 lobs a game. I mean,
Chris Paul is a nice addition there, but they need more.
Yeah, whatever. That's two different topics. Like, point is, he's gonna continue to improve.
I don't want to have MVP conversations, and I hope Tatum doesn't want to have them either. I honestly aren't.
No, I'm just surprised he's that low. I mean, remember who the leader in that department was to start the last couple of years here, so that could happen again. I think he's going to get off to a hot start. I like how the shot looks. The passing adds a new layer to that, and as you mentioned, John, he's seeing the double teams again, and that's going to only, I think, boosts his effectiveness by being able to get other guys involved there. So I like where he's at. You mentioned Cornette. I really like the fit with the starters. Like, I think it accentuates Tatum. It accentuates everybody because Cornette's just looking to pass out there, and it actually draws defenders away from other guys. And we've talked about in the past, finding ways to actually draw attention away from Tatum would be helpful for him, at least his percentages. So I'm there, I'll give Corrales the credit. It wasn't my idea, but I would start Cornette Tuesday with the starters and bring Al off the bench.
Why?
And is that, Bobby, is that thinking about what the fit is? Like, you think he's a better fit with the lineup, or is it just thinking about Al long term?
There it is.
No, it's a little bit of everything. It's the fit. He looked great in the preseason with that group. By the way, another really good game tonight from Luke. Bench unit, you can go Tillman, Horford. I think that's back to our Walsh discussion.
I knew why. I should have known. Bobby's been like, wow, Horford looked really bad tonight. He looked really bad tonight. He was just setting us up for
stacking the bricks of his argument here.
He was like, wow, Horford looks off tonight. Now I get it, Bobby. You were just setting us up for this.
I like the Horford-Tillman combination off the bench. And then 3, it naturally scales back Horford's minutes, and then you could actually close with Horford. So I think it just makes sense across the board.
It should be closing too.
No, I think it's just going to come down to matchups too, because
it's the whole switchability thing. Yeah, like with Horford and being able to kind of get out on guys in the perimeter. Do you want to have one of those matchups? No, I'm sure you were going there, but like you want to have one of those matchups where Luke gets put in a pick and roll over and over and over and over again because that's just what the other team does and plays his way off the floor.
Opening night, I'll put him on Josh Hart, and you don't have to worry about that.
Okay. Anyway.
You
think they're not hunting him with anyway, go ahead, Noah.
No, I was just going to say, on the Al Horford piece, like, this is the same Al Horford that was pivotal to the championship. It's been a few months. Like, I don't think that he had the type of offseason that some of these guys did. He's made it clear he spent the offseason with family and friends, and he's just ramping up. That's why he didn't play. So right now, we have no reason to think that this is not the same Al Horford that it was in May and June, and that Al Horford was one of the key pieces to the Celtics winning this championship. So at the end of the day, like, Luke Kornet wasn't in the playoff rotation largely. For a lot of big stretches, he really wasn't in the rotation. And so there are matchup reasons for that. Like, I've really been impressed by Luke and everything that we've seen from him so far, but I think it's still important to keep in mind, like, playoffs-wise, like, there was one guy that was on the floor 35 minutes a night and one guy wasn't really playing. And those same considerations are going to come into effect again this year in certain matchups. But when you can save his legs,
I'm talking regular season. Playoff time will be Porzingis starting.
Right, but no, the point Noah's making is there's a reason why Al Horford was playing those minutes because he's better at basketball and like he fits what they do and like it makes more basketball sense to play him. And regardless if it's a regular season, it's still a basketball game. So
this is Bobby's Drew off the bench take.
This is because I'll tell you right.
I didn't even know that was a take.
Bobby was beating that drum.
He wanted Drew off the bench.
What was the thought process? What was the vision?
We're not sure.
I wanted them to keep double big, but
he also even hinted before, but it began with maybe Porzingis comes off the bench.
Well, I also didn't know if Horford could move to the bench effectively, and that worked out.
First, it began with Porzingis
in that position this year,
and then it rotated to Holiday, all in an attempt to keep Horford in there. So the agendas are real here, and you guys have.
I get what you're saying.
It's not even about agendas.
Bobby.
You guys think I have agendas?
But I get it. Bobby just going 180 on Al.
Yeah, go ahead, Noah.
I think the Al off the bench thing worked last year, and that's kind of what you're leaning on, Bobby. Is my understanding, at least. Like there was questions around how Al even felt about going off the bench and whether that was going to impact him, and he embraced it. But I also think that he showed that when it mattered, he was very much capable of playing serious minutes and being a starter. So I like the idea. I mean, I think there's a reason why he didn't play in the first 4 preseason games. Like they're trying to do what they can to save his legs. And if, probably the saving Al long term is going to go above who's the better fit a lot of the nights. Or like maybe we'd rather have Al play a little bit more minutes, but we're going to have Luke because Al long term at age 38 matters more. So I can be sold on this idea that Al comes off the bench, but I think there's still going to be moments or certain games where it's going to bite them more. But, he's also improved a lot. Like I think a lot of the
he was so good this preseason.
Yeah, like I think the people
5 bigs, just bigger guys out there. Just bigger guys will beat smaller guys. Just put 5 bigs. I like that idea.
Bobby, I'll put it this way. I don't hate it. I don't see it.
I think it looks good. I have some doubts too. It's just
we know.
We're 1 week. We're 1 week from opening, and this isn't a Horford discussion. Horford's going to be fine, like Noah said. But we are 1 week from opening night. He's just sort of getting his legs under him. There's a practice or 2 left. It's Karl Anthony Towns. Do you really want to throw him into 30, 35 minutes that first night and it just full go? I think you just want to move very slowly with him. And there's going to be a handful of back-to-backs early where Kornet has to start anyway. So why not just keep him? And I'm not saying play Kornet 30 back to that thing from last year. Same with Drew. I wasn't saying play Drew 20 minutes and play Horford 30. Just start Luke, have him set the tone with that group, the starters. Yeah, that wasn't great.
What is that? What is
That was
that?
from a year ago.
Is that an article?
That's
Yeah,
called
that was our
that's
preseason
called
hot take.
trying too hard, Noah.
This
That's
was
what
our,
that's
Were
our
these
bold
hot
predictions. Bold
Oh,
predictions.
these
Yeah,
were
these
the
are hot
hottest.
takes.
What were your guys'
I'm
bold
legitimately convinced that Holiday could come off the bench at least.
John's
for the early
hot
portion
take
of
was
the
that Luke
season.
wasn't going to play at all.
I just do
His-
that to troll you. I'm going to do
Jimmy,
it
did
again
you have
this
one?
year.
Oh, we had a
We
lot
had
of
a
hot
million,
takes.
yeah.
Oh,
I think
they're-
Jimmy's was that Porzingis will rescue a kid from a hospital or
Yeah.
something. Burning hospital.
Yeah,
Mine
and
was,
honestly,
yeah.
per sources, that was close to happening, so that wasn't that crazy of it.
Yeah.
But
I
Could you
had-
see
I
it
had-
happening, Jimmy? Is there
Noah,
any
you
word
will,
where this happens?
Noah, you will have to make a few this year as well. The goal
It
of
goes
the
against my religion.
And by the way, the goal of these, and Bobby still hasn't figured it out. We've tried to explain it to him and Josue every year. The goal of them is they're not supposed to really become right, but you're supposed to be able to make your point while making a ridiculous take.
So I have to come up. When do I have opening night? I'll come up with something.
We'll talk about it.
No.
We'll talk
You're
about
going
it.
to come. The assignment is everyone has to come up with 3 or 4. And
Jimmy, could you see this
we
happening?
put them all out there. Yeah.
Could I see it happening? Yes. It's not like
And they
out of
have
the
to be
realm of
bold. It can't be
possibility.
like Jason Tatum will average 26,
That's
7,
my
and
point.
6.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Because that's
Right.
what like Josue and Sherrod do, and it's not bold enough. Jimmy's goes to the like impossible and theatrical.
Right.
Like
Well,
Wait,
I actually,
Amit put here. Jimmy, one of yours was Jaylen Brown is Finals MVP.
yeah, I
You
got
got
that
it.
one right. I got that.
There
one
you
right.
go.
Thank
you got it.
I also said 2 years ago that the team would forget Derek White on a road trip. Like they would just board the flight without him because he wasn't.
And that did happen.
Because he was going to be so unimportant to the team. So I was way wrong on why they forgot him, but they did leave him behind. It was the year. It was after he had like an eye
Milwaukee.
injury. Yeah, he had an eye. He got like it
His
was in the eye, right?
his ear burst.
His ear burst, and they had to leave him behind on the flight. So I kind of
Wait,
got that one right too.
Is that where we got burst? Is that where burst entered the?
No, that was
vernacular?
Jalen's hand
Jalen's hand burst. That's what it was.
yeah. It exploded on
when
him.
he had the
bad.
stitches.
It burst.
I thought it said burst. What was the real word?
I
Everyone in
forget.
the chat was like,
I
"Wait,
think-
what happened to his hand?"
His hand
like,
exploded. Apparently.
Yeah.
Did you just misread the injury report or something?
No, he said in the presser his hand busted open or something. And I said his hand burst.
Yeah, it caused a panic.
Or no, it was split open. His hand split open because he had the
Split.
cut.
We said
Oh, I
I said
remember that.
burst.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then we exaggerated.
At some point, I would like to find out what actually happened there, but it's fine.
Yeah, that
Okay.
is still a mysterious one.
I'm just stressed I have to
Whatever.
come up with 3 hot takes.
Oh, maybe more.
Like,
It's,
they're
actually
bold, they're
hot takes.
They're
bold
fun.
predictions.
they're not hot takes. They're
Bold
bold
predictions.
predictions.
I'll be right back.
His
Okay.
hand burst.
Jimmy, you can't
Bye,
do
Jimmy.
that. That's not how it works. Remove him. Okay, that's how it works, Jimmy. You can't just leave like that. All right, well, Jimmy's gone.
It's an
I will.
emergency.
Yeah. That's fine. We'll let you
Do you
know
have
about
anything
one.
else to talk about?
We have one more sponsor to talk about, damn it, and that's what I'm going to do. We'll talk about Nutrafol. You're interested in having hair that grows faster, stronger, longer, visibly thicker, volume. If you're experiencing noticeably less shedding, thicker lashes and brows, all of it possible with Nutrafol, #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement brand, trusted by over 1 million people. See thicker, stronger, faster growing hair with less shedding in just 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol. It's a physician formulated concoction here, 100% drug-free ingredients, supports healthy hair growth with a subscription. Building hair growth routine is simple. You purchase it online, no prescription required. Automated deliveries, free shipping to keep track of. Plus, you save up to 20% here, and that's what we're going to talk about. Get results that you can run your fingers through for a limited time. Nutrafol's offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com and enter that promo code GARDEN. Find out why over 4,500 healthcare professionals and stylists recommend Nutrafol. For healthier hair, Nutrafol.com. That's Nutrafol.com. promo code GARDEN. Once again, Nutrafol.com, promo code GARDEN. We are back, I believe, still no Jimmy, but we can continue on. We've hit on a few of these people, but I did want to get your take. Going all the way back to Abu Dhabi and through here in these games back stateside, what or who impressed you the most? And that doesn't have to necessarily be a player. It can be anything, about the team right now. What has impressed you the most or stood out?
I would say I think Peyton Pritchard has impressed me the most, but it wasn't a surprise. I think the surprise that impressed me the most was Jordan Walsh.
Yep.
Just because I never would have seen it coming on this turnaround after being in summer league for 2 weeks and seeing none of this. So that was the most positive surprise. But I think still, like, just seeing the way that Peyton Pritchard can control the game when he's on the floor, when all these other guys are out, like, it really makes you feel hopeful about what he can do in this league. And I famously said last year, I think he has an all-star ceiling. I was attacked for it. I think now it's still a hot take, but it's slightly less hot. So maybe it's still really hot. Maybe I'm going
What's
crazy
hotter,
right now,
six man or all star?
well, nothing this year. I think six man is just not going to work unless he needs to score more points. It's just ends up being a points competition, six man of the year. But I think what can he achieve in his career? Like, he could easily achieve six man of the year at some point in the right situation.
Yeah, we talked about it last show, I believe, Noah, that or last time I was on, I think I kind of knocked it around. Like, if he were on a losing team right now playing starters minutes, would he be scoring 17, 18, 19, 20 points per game? I think it's very possible. Like, I think that's his skill set right now. Maybe it would be coming off a bench role, but he could absolutely be that type of player somewhere else where his role was get out there and just
Antonio. You know what? Tonight made me
get out
think
there and
back, John.
fire, right. Yeah.
They almost traded Pritchard and Gallinari for Pirtle that year.
Yeah.
And who knows where Pritchard's career would have gone from there. Maybe he starts in San Antonio and is a close to 20-point guy.
So for you, Walsh, Noah, what about you, Bobby?
I think that bench collective as a whole, Pritchard certainly. Hauser was really good, shooting twos, shooting fadeaways,
doing stuff we don't see him
lane.
do too. That's what's neat about Hauser, right?
Yeah, he didn't play tonight, did he? I don't remember.
No, but that dribble fadeaway the other game was ridiculous, and it looked like he's been doing it his whole life.
Yeah, and he came off that extension too, so you want to see him add layers to his game. He'll be making a little bit more money, and you start to make some decisions into the future who's going to fit in here, and if he can do more stuff, that's super important for this team. Cornette, obviously, as I mentioned, but I'll go Tillman, who I had concerns about going into this year. I didn't love the fit last year, and he ended up stashed away on the bench. I think Jimmy brought him up earlier, right? Starts 6 for 8 from 3. He missed 3 shots tonight, I think, but whatever. The three's there to start. He looks better moving around after that surgery. He definitely isn't as plodding or burdensome, him moving around. And the defensive numbers weren't great in Boston last year, given some of the knee issues he was dealing with. And so you factor all that together. Shots are falling. Even used them inside a little bit. I felt like his off-ball activity just looked much more in line. And Joe's praised him a lot too this preseason. And they've obviously used him. He was the first big off the bench behind Horford tonight. So I'm much higher on him coming into this year than I was a year ago, where it really didn't look like he fit in great, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Is he going to shoot amazing from 3? That still hasn't been there for him in his career, but it was this preseason, and they're going to encourage him to shoot more than he ever has before. And he'll obviously get those minutes off the bench. For all the Walsh debate we had here, I think it's pretty clear Tillman at the 4 is much more likely than Walsh playing significant regular minutes.
Yeah. If I could change the who to what, mine would kind of be I think almost like the Missoula led vibe around the team of like, we'll see what happens in the regular season. I don't for a second believe that this team's going to just kind of cruise a little bit because they've got the championship and have a too cool for school attitude. I think exactly the opposite. I'm feeling exactly the opposite. And this, to me, I've made all of the 2008 comps with the roster construction with this team and people coming in here. And once they learn to let go of whatever it is that they thought was important once in their lives and kind of, bond together for the greater good here, that's when they'll, get to where they need to get to. I'm going to continue that comparison and say that next year following 2008, that 2009 team was the best team I've ever seen, and was better than the year before. And I do think that that's a possibility with this team. Just like I said, the kind of early vibes I'm getting off of that. Like, I do think that they're feeding off of kind of Joe's insanity and craziness and focus. And I think that's going to keep them focused. I've always thought the adults in the room help keep people focused as well with the holiday and whatever. So just how locked in they look, even for preseason, has been really, really impressive to me, where they could just totally have had a different kind of, we'll get through it, and like, I'll see you guys in the conference finals sort of vibe, because that's what it feels like. They're not going to play a meaningful game until the conference finals. But I don't get that vibe with them at all. So that's kind of my thing. Jimmy, any standouts for the preseason for you?
Well, we talked about Pritchard already a little bit. I think Pritchard's going to have a good showing. That was part of that one mostly. I mean, I think we've all talked about Tatum having a solid preseason, but I wouldn't say that, again, when it comes to the starters, I don't really care a whole lot about how they look in the preseason. I look at like the bench. We talked about Walsh possibly being able to be a guy that could jump into that fringe rotation role. Those are probably some of the guys that stand out to me more than
Walsh was definitely the biggest surprise.
Cornette, I think Cornette falls into the category similar to Pritchard, where it's like a guy where you're like, okay, I can see this guy being able to contribute, when called upon. Sort of, he's in that bucket for me.
John, I'll just echo what you were saying. I think the mindset piece, like especially in Abu Dhabi, then coming back to TD Garden and like different rotations, different combinations, like there was a level of focus. And it's not just what we saw, but also everything we're hearing out of training camp. I wrote a story about this for SB Nation, but like Mike Malone was complaining about how all his team's out of shape and like guys aren't conditioned,
Yeah,
and
so the
contrast there, every single quote and every single interview we've had out of training camp and media and all that has been like, great day, great practice. And Al Horford's somebody that will tell us like it wasn't a great day. We weren't super focused, and we've only heard positive things, and Joe's been really impressed. So I think those are all good signs. And that's kind of like a mindset thing that you can just pick up from being around the team over the last month, that mentally everybody's in kind of a good place here.
Yeah. And I think it's like, all of the bullshit aside, with the national media getting bored and deciding that, they were going to, pick Dallas or pick somebody to beat the Celtics because they were bored with the Celtics dominance all year long. And we're just looking to stir things up. I think really skewed the perception of like, who these guys were all year long, which was a legit tier above the entire rest of the league, like a full tier above the next wave of teams, and that's who they were all year long, and they're kind of entering that again. And I think I think Stan Van Gundy had a quote today. Was that recent? Did you guys read that?
Yeah, Gary tweeted it today.
Yeah, it was today.
Gary had tweeted it, and it was that's probably the best NBA roster I've seen, and I think that's going to kind of sink in for people a little bit this year, is like, oh, these guys are really fucking good, all over the place. And we're sitting here and talking about like the bench players who were surprisingly pretty good last year when we thought it'd be an area of weakness, all got a little bit better or look a little bit like they're fitting into their roles even more. Like, who haven't you said something positive about coming off of the bench last year? Hauser, Pritchard, Cornette, and Tillman, all of the people who you expect to be playing those minutes outside of the starting six, all have shown something, which is Tillman, his, knocking down some of the threes. Cornette has had a fabulous preseason. Pritchard, we just gushed all over, the beginning of the show, and even Hauser. So like everybody's ticking up a little bit. Brown for those couple of games looked ridiculously good. I thought Tatum looked, phenomenal again tonight. I'm never going to worry a second of my life about how Derek White or Drew Holiday play in a game.
Yeah.
And really, you're talking about the Porzingis wild card of like, all right, if he comes back and he's himself again, it's really stupid.
It's impossible. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
so again,
the way they looked
they're
at center,
impossibly good. Yeah. I mean, it is an embarrassment of riches. They're so ridiculously far ahead of everybody else, even with all of the additions everybody made. And I think
that goes back to my third center comment.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you're not even thinking so much about that Porzingis absence right now, just because of how all those guys played. I even thought
it
Kata had
doesn't
a
go
pretty.
back to it at all, but that's fine.
No, I
Not
mean
at
the
all.
depth on this team is so absurd.
It's a good thing we didn't make third center t-shirts. Bobby wants him the first center. He's your first center.
No, I mean that's your third center, and you're getting this.
What do you want
quality
with
of
your third
minutes out of him, and then
center?
Tillman's your fourth center, and you're getting great minutes out of him, and then you go all the way down to Kata, who had his ups and downs this preseason, but looks like he's going in a good direction. So that was a big concern of mine going into this year. I felt like people were actually underrating a little bit the Porzingis absence and how long it is, and you're trying to manage Horford at the same time. But I come out of the preseason less concerned about it, just given how those other guys played there and the variety that they have at that position again. They got so fortunate. I talked to Luke the other day. He said he had.
Don't ever
This
change,
isn't
Bobby. All right, whatever. Just don't ever change.
I talked
I
to
don't
Luke
think
the
he
other
can.
day. He said he had multiple really good offers in free agency to leave the Celtics, and he just couldn't do
Sure he
it.
did.
He wanted to stay. He wanted to keep playing with these
I've
guys.
heard
He
that
knew
too.
the whole roster. He knew the whole roster was going to be pretty much back. So you could have lost Cornette this summer. I don't know what the deal was with Tillman. He signs for 2 years at the minimum. Feels like he could have probably got more. And all these guys just decided to stay. And if you think you even lose one of these guys, they extended Pritchard for $6 million a year for 3 more years. They had some good foresight out of this bench, and even that Hauser extension is looking pretty good now too. So depth matters now in this league, and we're gonna get into eventually like who's staying, who's going with the tax, and all that kind of stuff. But for this year to have this depth, to have this much, like you've said, Noah, it's unprecedented the amount of guys they're bringing back from last year, and that's why you hit the ground running like this. It's the same team.
Yeah.
I think also, honestly, like the backup bigs are going to end up aging similar to how like the Pritchard Hauser convo ended up. Like I think people were worried about the lack of scoring on the bench previously. Like, are they enough? These guys have these clear flaws. I think this group is going to surprise people, and they're already starting to. But there's a reason why the Celtics went out and made sure to re-sign, but all 3 of them. Like I don't think it's you can go out in the open market and try to recruit Andre Drummond if you want. Like there's other guys out there, and their intention and their goal was to get guys that they trusted and that they are familiar with the system. And I think that they were really happy they could bring them all back. So I think it's not going to be like any of them are going off on the stat sheet, but I think all 3 of them they believe in and they rely, they think will understand the schemes, and there won't be like a major drop off when they come into the game.
Yeah. The reason they signed them was screw you, Dad. I'm going to do what I want. It's my team.
Yeah.
So I don't care if it's your money. Screw you. I'm signing them.
Yeah, you said it's my birthday. You said for my birthday we could re-sign him.
Said because I could sign Luke, and I'm signing Luke.
Yeah.
And that's what happened.
It's the worst birthday ever.
Wow, this would be good.
That's what
I
happened.
don't know about the name, but that'd be a good podcast.
I like that. Corn
The
dog and
Luke,
man.
Bobby.
I was like, are we going to acknowledge some of these comments, because some of these have just been killing me, and then you picked the best one.
Let's
Yeah,
try and make that happen.
My light died.
You guys have been finals, didn't you? Didn't you have Luke for the finals? You did a little sit down.
Yeah.
with him?
Yeah, we've had Luke on a couple times.
Yeah,
Luke
he was
actually
good.
would have a great podcast.
Let's finish this conversation quickly with the last bit of business, which we alluded to off the top. Is the Lonnie Walker situation. Just make your predictions. What do you think happens here? Bobby last. Noah, what do you think happens here? What do you think will happen? What do you think should happen with the situation for everybody at home who doesn't know? Lonnie Walker, if they do sign him to a deal, was going to cost a little bit of extra tax dollars here. If he gets a guaranteed deal, he's on like some weird made up thing that didn't exist before he signed it type of contract. Exhibit 10. What's it called?
Exhibit 10. Yeah.
Exhibit 10 contract. Totally made up, but he's on one. So he might have to accept assignment to Maine and kind of ride that shuttle back and forth this season.
I wonder, is he the best player to ever play on Exhibit 10?
I don't know, but I mean, or
Probably
is this?
Not. We should go back and look.
So what will they do? What should they do, Noah?
I think that I would be stunned if he didn't start the season in Maine, just off what we're hearing. This is not like what I want or my take from watching him play. I think that all the reports are leaning towards him being in Maine to begin. What should happen? I mean, he should be on a guaranteed deal somewhere, but clearly that hasn't happened. So I don't think it's the end of the world for him to start in Maine and to show that he can commit and that he can produce there and he can stick to the schedule and all that. And I don't know. I don't know if I can say what should happen, but I don't think that I think he's gonna start in Maine almost for sure. I would be shocked.
This doesn't bode well for bold predictions if you can't even tell me what you think they should do with Lonnie Walker.
Well,
what do you put on your GM hat and you do it? What would you
fine.
do?
Okay. I mean, honestly, what you probably do is clear a spot for him by getting rid of somebody else.
Uh-oh.
But I can't call for anybody to go.
Do it, Noah.
Go on.
You were saying.
Who goes?
I think that he can contribute right now more so than other guys on this team. And this is a team that could have a limited championship window. And so I think you pick the guy that can help you right now. But it's not as simple as that. So I don't know if they shop Jaden Springer around. I don't know if there's a market for him, That's the question. I don't have all the information.
Who can help them win?
You know what? I think that's bogus.
Who can help them win more this year, Springer or Walker?
No, that whole thing's ridiculous. And I saw people saying, if you want to keep him, sign him. Pay the tax. It's 1 year. That's absurd. And I get that there's other things involved here too. You're looking to see him play consistently. You're looking to see him adapt to the system. But if you like him, and I've said this from the start, and I agree that he's probably going to end up in Maine. If you really like him and want him here, don't fool around with it. And I know that the longer he stays in Maine, you save some money there, and it's all prorated, right? So if you keep him for the whole year, it's $11 million. If you keep him for half the year, it's like $5.5 million.
I think they want to see him in Maine first. They want to see that he can contribute and that he can stay consistent and save some money by not having him on the payroll in November. And if everything goes as best as it possibly can, I do think there's a spot for him down the road here.
Right.
But I don't think
it's about him or Springer. I don't think that's how you look at it. If you want him here, and maybe there's some agreement behind the scenes that he will, spend that amount of time up there and then eventually get that opportunity if all goes well. I think that's pretty evident that he wants to be here if he's going to do that. But I don't think it's try to save a couple million, but you've spent $500 million on this roster already. If you really want this guy, you're not trading Springer and attaching picks to him or whatever you got to do there to save a couple $1 million.
And I would agree with that. I don't think you would go out of your way and attach picks, and that's why I don't think it's really possible right now. So in an ideal world, you just had another spot, but I think you just send him to Maine and just see that he can be consistent and that it's like what they did with a lot of guys, like with Kate last year.
They can just send him to Maine. They can just send him to Maine.
But that's not that easy. No, because if he goes to Maine, anybody can pluck him and put him on the roster. So you're putting there your
exposure. And they grabbed him all summer, though.
Right.
I know that. What I'm saying is at this point, if you're doing it with the idea that and when we're ready for him, if he's close to being ready for the best team in basketball, that has to mean that anybody who's seen him play a little bit this preseason and watches him go up to Maine and score 50 points a night, for a week or two, the likelihood of him still being there for too long, I think, is small-ish.
And he could put up monstrous numbers. And he could.
So I understand. It's not like you're not going to lose.
Yeah.
This isn't like oh my God, the championship window has closed now that someone has pried Lonnie Walker away from us. But it's as simple as if he's good enough to make the team, he should make the team. If you think he can help you, he should help you. I don't think you should be factoring other stuff in, but it does factor in. I don't think the Celtics aren't immune to it. We are watching the Denver Nuggets give up on a player of KCP's caliber for money. So
Well, that's the
yeah.
question, John. Do you
So
believe in
yeah, I
him?
mean, this is a not enough. This is a ridiculous luxury item where, like, again, if Brad's like, hey guys, so what do you think? And they're like, how much? It's gonna cost us an extra 10 mil. How much are you gonna play him?
Is he
I
ever
don't
gonna
know.
play?
It
Yeah.
may be a few minutes here and there, but he's good to have just in case. And be like, can we live without? Like, do we really have to have him? So, like, yeah, the money thing is real. But what I don't want to do
is it though? I mean, they're
I don't wanna-
selling like
I don't want to disparage Lonnie Walker just to make a case for why, like, oh, they don't need him and this and that. Sure, why wouldn't you want a proven NBA scorer sitting there who could come in and give you buckets, especially if you had
Who's
some
still
injuries?
young.
Yeah, who's still young, who's a former first-round pick. I think it's a no-brainer that he should obviously be on the roster. But if it doesn't happen, I don't think it's not gonna. I don't think it
until
I think there's a good.
it doesn't tank the season. But I think not only he's in here, I think he's in that. I think he's in play for in the 10. Like, I think he could push for minutes. I think it's possible. So I don't know.
If Brad Stevens wasn't so clear that he is going to keep that 15th spot open, I would be saying, like, let's get him. Let's, they should sign him. Let's this week. But it would go against everything we've heard about this team, both on the record, both talking to people. Like, there's no, that's why I land on that. I don't know why he's so insistent upon that. I didn't understand why they didn't convert Keita earlier last year when it was clear he was spending all of his time in Boston. It was like, why just not
money.
make him a guaranteed spot? Yeah, so I think that this is going to be their approach again. So
but the difference
it's not
with
my
Keita
opinion,
is,
but
yeah, the difference with Keita is he was on a two-way deal, so you could play him 50 games before doing it. And
you controlled Keita's rights. It's not as much of a risk here with Walker going.
But don't you think the Celtics knew? Yeah. I mean, they obviously knew what it was going to cost to keep him when they brought him onto the roster for this stretch. I mean, it was Zarin and that.
I think he wanted to be here, Jimmy.
But why?
Because it's a great system. His stock hit rock bottom. He knows a couple guys on the team, Derek and Drew. So I think he felt like he could redeem himself here, and that's why.
And goes to situation and go. Okay, so you're saying he would be willing to go to the man. I'm saying, but why would it go to a situation where it's so unlikely for him to get signed unless the Celtics think that there is an opportunity for him to still get signed? But that's why would him or his agent?
I think there could be down the line.
Someone has to explain to me what it is that he's going to learn in Maine, though. That's the thing.
He's not going to learn anything. He's already better than Maine.
He's a 7th-year NBA veteran.
Right. Why would he want to be there?
We're not talking about an all-star or a starting caliber player, but it's a guy who's played 20-plus minutes a night for NBA teams, scoring in double figures. Like, this is not the type of guy you send to Maine typically, right? Like, he's not 22. He's played 7 years. This is his 7th year in the league.
He's like, he'd rather go to probably play Europe or something. You know what I mean?
Who knows what he wants? I think he likes it here because of the guys. I just find it strange to think like he'll go there and learn the system or benefit from being in Maine. I don't think he benefits at all. He's just biding his time until
I don't think there's zero benefit, John. I mean, he still seems pretty early.
I think zero benefit. I think zero benefit. It's just simply if it's a wink, wink.
Don't make me pull up the Luke comparison.
Go down there and we'll bring you up in a little bit, Look,
it won't be a long.
He's experienced a great deal more success than Luke had in his career before Luke got here.
Right.
Luke was fringy, end of the roster on not great teams, and Lonnie Walker has been a contributor on not great teams. They definitely have a different career path. Like I said, it's 20-something minutes a game, 11, 12 points per game. That he's a different category of player. So I don't fully understand the main thing. I don't understand it. Sorry, Luke. Sorry, Luke. Sorry.
He got me.
He got me.
I think that they should listen. I think they should fork over the money because I don't give a shit if Wick or Wick's dad or whoever has to spend.
That's the biggest motivator here. There's no doubt.
That is it. Otherwise, he'd be on the team. There wouldn't be a question about it. He's better than anybody.
And it's a real thing. I mean, when you're spending this much money on this roster and you're about to spend the amount you are next year on it and you're losing money, as the report put out there, are you paying $11 million to a guy who has 0 minutes right now? Like, let's be real. Opening night, fully healthy roster, 0 minutes.
I would keep him over Springer. Sorry, Noah. I would keep him over Springer.
If you have to.
I wouldn't lose.
It's a no-brainer. If you could get off Springer and keep Walker,
I'm not going that far. I still think there's a little something there with Springer, especially defensively.
I haven't seen.
We're back.
Noah
what
does.
am I missing? I haven't seen anything with that guy.
Noah has.
Well, he hasn't played enough.
So what are you holding on to? You already know. You've already seen more out of Lonnie Walker. And again, these are players that you want to come in and give you what you know they can give you. You don't know what Springer can give you, if anything. You know Walker can give you.
That's a fair point.
I mean, just to be fair, though, like Jaden Springer had played 1 game in Summer League, was the best player on the floor, was impressive on both ends. And while other guys that now we feel really good about struggled, right? And so he had a tough stretch there on TD Garden on Sunday where Joe wasn't happy with him and some things went awry and it wasn't disastrous, right? So I don't want to get like carried away here, but
why did Joe get mad at Jaden?
He didn't take a charge.
That's what it was?
That's what I saw, and then John tweeted it.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Okay. I saw that he was annoyed with him.
I'm like squinting, looking down, yeah.
Walker has already like balled out in the league at certain points. Like you can just look at his. There's probably
but in a way,
YouTube highlight reel
for
of
him
Walker
to do that.
I know, but the fact that he can put him on the team, the fact that he's capable of doing it, I know that.
Well, that's why I keep going back to the thing with John, and we disagree on it. He can alter his game to do things that would actually be useful for that. He's not going to be able to play with the ball in his hands and take 10 shots and cook them out there. He's not going to have that opportunity here. So he's got to play a different way if he's going to fit in.
No, he's just bench scoring. He's just bench scoring.
Then he's not going to fit in.
Why? Who doesn't want bench scoring?
They have bench scoring.
Come on.
Well, what Joe said the other night was that what impressed him about Lonnie Walker is not the things that you guys said to us.
That's just because Joe wants to keep reminding us that he's smarter than we are. But, like, of course it's the scoring. Like, I know Joe's going to say that. But anyway, go ahead.
No, I mean, I feel you, John. But, like, I also think that there are things that, like, he's not going to be willing to sacrifice for a bucket. And I'll bring up Malcolm Brogdon, who was before my time covering the team. But I felt like there was a lot of times where Malcolm Brogdon was you were sacrificing other things by having him on the floor, whether defensively or passing or playmaking, in the name of bench points. And I don't know that that's always the sacrifice that you want to make when you have a team with so many stars and with already so many shots to go around. So I feel like you don't want to sacrifice other things just because Lonnie Walker can score. I think he can. I don't know. I'm not saying that he's an incapable defender or anything like that. Not at all. But I get that Joe is now looking at other elements of his game because those are the things that are going to keep him off the floor.
I know.
Just the scoring's not enough.
But it goes both ways. It's so funny because when we talk about a player who lacks something, and that's what's keeping them from playing, that's kind of like the reverse of like everyone who's on the team right now who can't shoot well enough, and that's the reason they're not playing. So people coming in off the bench are imperfect players. If everybody was a lockdown defender and could create their own shot and score at will, they'd be making $30 million a year. We're not having a conversation about them. So all of these guys are flawed. They're role players. Lonnie Walker's role is to get buckets, not to play defense. Sam Hauser has a role. Peyton Pritchard has a role. Like Luke Cornett, as much as Bobby loves him, doesn't do everything well, but his minutes are valuable. Like when you get down into guys who are 10 and 11 on your bench, like of course they're going to have warts, but like being able to score the basketball in the NBA is a premium skill set. And, having that on the bench at your disposal is better than, and again, not to crap all over Jaden Springer, a guy who might be able to go in and play some pretty okay defense, but do literally nothing else for you. That's what you're weighing it against. You're not weighing it against like what the ideal player would do on this team right now.
Arguably your best scorer off the bench. Okay.
Well, let's remember 1 year ago, or even less than a year ago, at the deadline, Lonnie Walker was available. No one traded for him. They didn't trade for him, and they went and traded for Springer. So maybe things changed in that span, but I have a hard time thinking that they're going to move Springer to make room for Walker. And I think that's just a little convoluted because at the end of the day, and I know what you're going to say, John, like that's not a reason to not do it, but he's not going to swing whether or not they win the title. And so if they feel good about him fitting in and doing the things that they need to do, you'd sign him anyway. And if he's not there yet, you send him to Maine and hope that he can figure it out there and develop it there. And maybe it's half the year.
Well,
it's not going to happen in Boston because he's not going to play.
Why won't he play?
It also
there's no minutes available.
People are in and out of the lineups. People have rest days. He could earn some more minutes. He could
but that's Pritchard, Hauser. Like there's guys in front of him.
Those guys play different positions. Cornette
right. There could be
Walker
opportunities,
are not going to be fighting
be
for minutes. You're just writing the guy off. He could probably be one of your best scorers.
What I find it weird how we're writing it off as if it's nothing. I think he's clearly one of the best 15 players that they have. It doesn't mean he's going to play a lot, right? And so that's what's odd to me here.
Yeah, exactly. He's better than you could go down the current roster right now, and he's probably better than every bench scorer you have.
Not Pritchard.
Pritchard and Hauser score in different ways, but Walker, I think
they're more efficient than him. I just want to say, just before we end up wrapping this up, I love Lonnie Walker's game. I've always loved Lonnie Walker's game. When they signed him, I was so excited. He's been one of my favorite bench players on other teams. So none of my hesitancy is coming out of a lack of appreciating what he can bring to the table. It's genuinely based off reporting and speaking to people and trying to understand the situation, the sense that I've gotten from this team. And so this is not what my hot take is of he shouldn't be in Boston. It's trying to actually, and I think Bobby got a lot of flack for it early on, but he was doing the math and the full equation of this ecosystem here. And, there was concern around whether Porzingis' injury ends up lasting longer, and maybe Xavier Tillman, who had knee surgery in July, we don't know how that's going to hold up when he's playing night in after night out. Last year, he really didn't play consecutively nights. His knee got inflamed. So I think part of the concern right now is there's a lot of question marks with the health of the bigs, and that's going to be the team's priority because that could actually prevent them from winning the championship.
That's a good point.
Yeah, and Cornette's had his calf stuff, and he had his wrist surgery, which I don't think is any factor. But a lot of it is from a team building standpoint. I think the post players is where they're most more sensitive because they recognize how quickly that can turn into a major problem. And right now, they all looked great. Porzingis is on his way to coming back. Al Horford still seems young, all that, but that can all change. And I think they feel that's a more volatile part of the roster than the backup scorers. Yeah,
there's no question. Reading the tea leaves, it sounds clear he's not going to get a spot to start the season. It's still a little perplexing, but the reasoning there I think is sound in the sense that the flexibility of the 15th roster spot and what you may need to do with that probably, supersedes whatever contribution you think you might get from someone who's filling up a 15th roster spot.
I've said it from the start. The positive here is he isn't going to Maine saying, what the hell, I'm out of here the first. He's going to Maine saying, listen, my stock's dropped to rock bottom. I got to do this. I'm going to do it. I'm going to make the best of it. And he seems if Chicago or someone comes along, I don't even know who it would be, and offers him the mid-level or even a minimum, you probably have to take that if you're him. But in the meantime, if that doesn't come, I don't think I actually think it could be a good thing, him going to Maine, taking that time, adjusting, and then signing later in the year. And I actually think that's what will happen.
Do you read nothing into his minutes over the two games prior to this one? I know he didn't play tonight, but that he did, because we saw.
No, I think he's had a great camp.
He was in Abu Dhabi. He was in, the what's worse than stay ready? The don't even bother getting ready. Crew.
And
right.
the
it's okay if you have a full meal before tip off crew, you're not getting in the game. He was playing with those guys. And then the last two, he's getting into the rotation with the second unit. And, and obviously had a really good game last time out. So did you read anything into that where I think that's what sparked everything? Because he seemed like a goner the first couple of games, and then he plays the next two, and it was like, oh, he's rotating in. Did we get this
No,
wrong?
I think he's had a good camp. I mean, he's been there.
And then he was out again.
He's
Then he was out
there.
again tonight. So again, I don't know what you read into that stuff or not.
No, I think they were rewarding the work he's put into this point so far, and I think he's been at that facility nonstop. I think he's done things that they've wanted him to do. Even that first game where Joe praised him, I went back and watched the tape today. He did some really good stuff in that game, like setting off ball screens, and that pass to Pritchard for the 3 in transition. I thought it was a small move, but like a really good intention move. And he had 7 assists in that game, Noah. So that game was pretty impressive in terms of just the way he approached things. And then the next night he comes out and scores 20, and it's great. And we know he can do that, but no rebounds, 1 assist. I think he had a turnover.
He's not supposed to do that. That's the thing.
But on this team, he's going to have a different role, John.
No, on this team, his role is going to be to score. He's not. If he's a complete player, we're not having this conversation about him.
And I keep hearing this thing like, oh, what if he's not going to save him if one of the starters
Can
goes
Luke
down.
shoot, grab boards, and block shots? He can do
no,
none
but
of
he
those
does
things.
all the little things so well, and they need that.
But that's the point. Is are we going to
remember when we used to talk about Luke versus Andre Drummond?
Are we just talking about what the person can't do? It's what's the point? If you like a guy, you point out what he can do. If you don't like a guy, you point out what he can't do. No, they don't need him to do anything. He's bench insurance scoring as your 10th or 11th guy. He's just coming in to put points.
And that's why they're not paying $11 million for that, because they don't need that right now.
Yeah. What are you laughing at, Luke? Luke getting mad in the comments again?
It's never going to get old for me. The first time I ever did one of these, it got me, and it's still getting me.
Yeah, anyway. All right. Go ahead.
I look forward to this part of the season being over, so we can just. Also, I'm excited for Lonnie to be in Maine, so I can go over there, grab him for a one-on-one. Maine PR is so helpful. I'll do some stories on him. We'll see where
he ain't gonna be in Maine. He ain't gonna be in Maine.
You don't think he's gonna be in Maine right now?
I think he's gonna find a place to play, not in Maine.
Before November 15th.
Yes.
Okay.
Take that.
Awesome.
All right. So we're gonna wrap it there. We have we're gonna do our
that is the risk you're taking. I mean, if he's gone next week, we'll have a different conversation.
I hope so.
Right?
I hope for him.
We'll do another show this week.
Lifelong
and we'll say how you guys kicked him out of town. That will be what the show will be about.
and we'll do a preview on Monday. So we're gonna have more Garden Report stuff. If there's breaking news, you can always keep it with us here. But there'll be more Celtics coverage throughout the week as we're ramping up with the most important issue surrounding the team. Will Lonnie Walker make the team or not? That's all that matters right now. But the Celtics open the season next Tuesday at home against the Knicks. Bobby's just got people buzzing all over him right now in his ear.
Yeah, they've been very mad from the start.
So yeah, but that's it. The season is next week, a week from tonight. We look forward to the banner raising. All these this cast of characters will be there. CLNS will be there in full force. But we have more Garden Reports coming your way. Best thing you can do: follow all of us on Twitter and or the Celtics CLNS account, or subscribe. Turn on your notifications, all of that stuff with the YouTube channels. You'll be notified. A lot of people pop in and they're like, I didn't know they were live. Now, well, there's a way to know. Okay,
if only there was technology available.
There was a way. There's a way. So yeah, but then obviously once the games begin, we're live after every game. So we look forward to hanging out with all of you. Thank you guys for joining us. Thanks to Noah, Bobby, and Jimmy. Like I said, we'll be back later in the week. Until then, good night.
Wait, Amit's got an outro for us, I think.
No, he doesn't.
He said he was going to work on an outro.
He had a phenomenal game. Horford's out. I think it's an option. That did not sound like a chair.
It was a freaking chair. It does sound like a chair.